Hi everyone, how's it going? Marilla here. Today I'm going to be using a balanced Ho-Oh team. As usual, I'll put the poke paste in the description down below, and also I'm going to have a timestamp for when the battles actually start, and I'll talk about the team first here. We have a Life Orb Ho-Oh instead of Heavy Duty Boots, and actually even with the Life Orb, we actually have quite a bit of bulk investment on this Ho-Oh, and with the combination of Airstream, Life Orb damage boost, Dynamax, it's really tough to beat this Ho-Oh 1v1. Ho-Oh, with its weakness to water and 4 times weakness to rock, often has a few problem Pokemon that it can't beat 1v1 very easily. It's not gonna have trouble against much else, but I'm talking about things like something like Kyogre, something like uh, Landorus T. So we have a Chansey and a Quagsire to back ourselves up. And interestingly, we have Sing and Yawn on the Quagsire. I actually really like this Yawn Protect Leftover set on the Quagsire, mainly because I think on a team with an offensive mode like Pheromosa and Ho-Oh, you need the Quagsire to kind of link yourself in between the your bulky core, and you want to bring in your Pheromosa, you want to bring in your Ho-Oh, things like that. And a Yawn makes it so much easier to do that. Tangrowth is a pretty cool tech. It's good against a lot of physical attackers, and Pheromosa has Throat Chop, which is interesting. It is mainly against Calyrex Shadow Rider, because this Chansey doesn't have Shadow Ball to hit it. Finally, the Trick Specs Finny. Actually, our team doesn't have the best time against opposing stall teams, and Tapu Fini is going to kind of patch up our matchup against that. So yeah, let's get into our first game here. We have a team with a Zamazenta, so pretty interesting team here. And Ho-Oh seems really good. It's going to be everything other than the Quagsire 1v1. And I mean, you could say the Colossal could beat it 1v1 technically, but at the same time, I do have Earthquake, and I'm going to bring Chansey, and that means that Colossal can't really make much progress, so I can very easily throw out EQs, even Brave Birds, and I'm going to bring Tangrowth for the Quagsire. Yep, and that should be pretty solid here. I don't see how my opponent could try to break through this. Okay, so my opponent does lead Rillaboom into the Ho-Oh, which is a fantastic matchup. In fact, it's so great that I have almost no repercussions just going for EQ predict. If he stays in, like, great, good for you, but I'm not gonna be taking anything from the Rillaboom anyways. And it does nail the Colossal on the switch, and it's not gonna KO because of the grassy terrain having EQ damage, but it still does a ton. It actually seems like it might just KO through the Dynamax HP doubling. Did pretty close to 2/3, but I'm just gonna make sure I'm gonna go for the Max Quake. On top of Max Quake doing more raw damage than Earthquake, it's also not halved by grassy terrain. So this means that if Colossal stays in and tries to Dynamax, or doesn't, it's gone for sure. So I am going. He doesn't stay switch out, so I am going to take this KO. It'd be nice if he Dynamaxes, but I am not banking on that at all. And let's see what he does here. Yep, he does Dynamax. So if I Earthquaked, and if that was a high roll, low roll situation, there was a chance that I was gonna not KO this Colossal, and Ho would have died to the Rock move for sure. But that is not the case here, and I am definitely going to take this KO. And let's see what my opponent has here on the back, because it seems like if his Colossal dies, he doesn't have a great matchup against Ho-Oh. yes, Quagsire can wall Ho-Oh, but at the same time, it doesn't do too much back to Ho-Oh because it can't Scald Burn Ho-Oh. Toxic, I can just regenerate her out, so I can. It. I'm struggling to see how my opponent could make progress on this Ho-Oh at this point, especially with the Blaziken. So I'm going to go for the Airstream here, and because I am, as I said in the team analysis, I am quite slow on this Ho-Oh. So despite this Airstream going +1, the Blaziken is also go into +1 speed with speed boost ability. So what that means is that I am still slower on this third turn of Dynamax. So if he were to have, for example, something like a rock move, Blaziken does learn Rock Slide. It rarely uses it because it's the only thing it hits is Ho-Oh, but that could be a way out for him. He goes for the Thunder Punch, and that doesn't knock me out. And I am going to go for the KO on the Focus Sash Blaziken. And this is GG, because I don't see a way for Rillaboom to break through Ho-Oh. And on top of that, I also have the Tangrowth in the back. And Tangrowth also beats Rillaboom, so I am just actually going to stay in and go for the Brave Bird. The only way he can really knock me out here is if he goes for a Choice Band Classic Glide and it crits me. But if that happens, then it's not breaking through Tangrowth ever, so I am perfectly fine with that. Yeah, see, even with the Life Orb, it wasn't really close to killing. But maybe with the Bandit crit, it definitely had a chance to KO. I didn't go for the Sacred Fire because, of course, that has a chance to miss. And Brave Bird locks up the game here. And I'm gonna take my first win with this Ho-Oh team. Our second opponent here has a pretty offensive Calyrex Shadow Rider team. He doesn't really have a big physical wall. You could, that's why I'm assuming that the Zapdos is very likely going to be his physical tank. And if so, I think if I were him, I would bring that for sure. But actually, it might be just like some kind of offensive Scarf Zapdos or something like that. And so that's why I bring Chansey to support my Ho-Oh. And on top of that, I'm going to bring Pheromosa. Because Calyrex Shadow Rider can't really touch Chansey, but I can't touch it back. So if it has Nasty Plot, which not all of them do, but then others might have Substitute plus Leech Seed, things like that. So that's not good either. And I might be in a bit of a trouble here. So Ho-Oh actually also can win versus the Calyrex Shadow Rider 1v1. And on top of that, I have the dark move on the Pheromosa. So I am hoping that this kind of triple coverage is enough to take on the Shadow Rider here, even though not one of them solidly beat it 1v1. So he leads Urshifu, which is actually it should be a good matchup for the Ho-Oh. So I'm going to just go for the Sacred Fire. I could go get a burn here. That would be ideal. But unless it is banded, it actually isn't going to do enough damage to actually pressure this Ho-Oh. So with the Wicked Blow at least. So that's why I felt safe going for the Sacred Fire there. But he actually reveals Max Rockfall. What a crazy tech. Definitely got me there. I didn't really have a chance there to survive with the Ho, didn't I? And it's just gonna get one hit KO'd like that, turn 1. And this is not a good situation for me whatsoever. Close combat is not going to KO Urshifu, naturally, because it is just so bulky. So I'm gonna have to go for the U-turn here. That's why I went Pheromosa first. Now I'm gonna go for the U-turn. Hope that he doesn't go for the fighting move on this Chansey switch, which I mean, I don't think anyone would go for the fighting move here, because, I mean, switching into Chansey, not exactly a pressing concern for someone who has a really dominant Urshifu on the board right now. And he goes for the max Airstream, so that was good that you turned out. And max Airstream with the Aerial Ace definitely makes sense if you are trying to Dynamax Urshifu. And in fact, if it's Banded Urshifu, usually you don't really Dynamax it at all, but usually you just click Wicked Blow and Close Combat, so in case you Dynamax it, the Airstream does make sense a little bit here. And I am going to go for the Sing here. Maybe I should have actually gone for the Stealth Rock here. I'm not too sure on that. But I am gonna go for the Sing. I'm gonna survive the Max Knuckle, because Knuckle is weaker than close combat, and he doesn't get boost from the choice band. So that's why I was able to go into Chansey, and I was able to stall out all 3 turns of his Dynamax. And now it's up to this Pheromosa to take this game 1v3. Not the best shot here, but I mean, it is the best. It's the best shot I got. So at least with the 3 that I brought, I definitely maybe might have wanted to bring something else, but I thought that Ho-Oh was gonna cover Urshifu pretty safely. It clearly wasn't. And in fact, just gonna go for the triple axle here. It's really tough to lock myself into any one move here. Actually, you could argue that I could have just gone for the max knuckle, which is, I wouldn't be locking myself into any move if I went for the max knuckle. But the problem is, if you were following along, I actually checked my speed on my Pheromosa, and because it is adamant, it is going to get the attack boost. But at the same time, it's not going to be faster than the Shadow Rider. So I kind of want to not Dynamax right away, because I do want the speed boost from this Choice Scarf. But he goes into Ferrothorn. That is not good for me at all, because he is going to do 3 Iron Barb recoil damage on this Pheromosa, and I'm gonna go down to half. So if he is somehow able to stall out this Dynamax with this Pheromosa, he can actually just bring in this Ferrothorn again, and I'd be forced to go down to the triple axle recoil damage. So let's see what he does here. I think he should, if he has Protect, I think he should have definitely gone for that, because I was obviously going for the Dynamax. And as I said, I definitely want to stall out every single turn. He wants to stall out every single turn of my Dynamax before bringing out the Ferrothorn again. Well, it depends on what he has, right? If he has Shadow Rider, then he's just gonna let me Dynamax and Psyshock and just win the game. But at the same time, like he might not. Okay, so he might not know that I am adamant, but after this attack boost, he definitely does. So if he has Shadow Rider, he's gonna go to it, gonna win the game. But I had to kind of let that happen, because I mean, I can't play around that, and also he'll beat the Ferrothorn. So I had to go for it, had to bank on that not being the 3rd Pokemon. And fortunately for me, he actually does have Porygon 2. And Porygon 2 are generally very specially defensive in this meta, and it just goes down to a single Max Knuckle. It is at +2 though, so that is something to take into account. But Pheromosa, very strong, and he brought 3 things weak to fighting, so turns out that Pheromosa 1v3 can really happen here. And this is my 3rd turn of Dynamax, and if he doesn't have Protect, as it seemed like it, if he had Protect, he would have gone for it earlier. This Max Knuckle is just gonna take out this Ferrothorn. And yep, that's a good game. That was actually, I was not in a very comfortable position, but I was able to come back thanks to the Pheromosa. This is a third game. We have another pretty offensive Shadow Rider Calyrex team here. It seems like he probably has Volt Switch on the Zapdos. That's his best way to bring in Calyrex. And actually, I'm just gonna bring Pheromosa as my lead. It has a great matchup against a lot of things on his team. Other than, I guess, the Ho-Oh. No, not the Ho-Oh, the Zapdos. So that's why I bring Chansey. And Ho-Oh seems generally good, especially if I can somehow chip down the Zapdos, which I'll be able to at least get the Stealth Rock damage on it, unless it has the boots, which it rarely does. So that means that Ho-Oh is going to be able to kind of spread chip damage and eventually, hopefully, break through the Zapdos and the Rotom Heat. And I will get to the battle. My opponent leads out with the Finny. Pretty interesting choice. So he is going to definitely have the lead advantage here against this Pheromosa. Definitely not a favorite matchup for my Pheromosa, but it's okay because I can just safely U-turn out of there. And let's see what he goes for. Hopefully he doesn't have Trick or anything like that. But interestingly, he has Misty Seed. So this actually makes me really comfortable switching into the Chansey because it implies that he doesn't have one of the two things that could really screw over Chansey. First being the biggest one being Trick, right? Taunt can be annoying, but at the same time, I could just get a lot of relevant chip damage with the seismic tosses as he goes for the taunts. So that wouldn't be the end of the world. Trick is definitely the worst thing I could face, but he goes for the Nature's Madness. That's his best move against Chansey, probably, as I will go for the Stealth Rock. And now, whatever he has in the back is not going to have a fun time switching into Ho-Oh. His two main checks to Ho-Oh are Zapdos and Rotom Heat, both of them weak to Stealth Rock, so that is going to be my main win condition here. And he brings in the Calyrex Shadow Rider. So, as I said, I don't have anything with the Chansey to hit this Shadow Rider. But I do have Sing, so that is one thing I can do. And I think the big important thing here is that Sing is actually a sound move and it goes through Substitute. But I kind of, it's a big brain fart there. I kind of forgot about the Mystic Terrain. A pretty new play on my part, but that is going to waste the turn. So I should have gone for just the easy softball there, even though like that could have easily invited a substitute. Sing not exactly the most common move, so I would have also preserved a bit of information. And it seems like he doesn't have either sub or nasty plot, because if he had either, he would have gone for it for sure. So a pretty curious way, because I mean, if he has Trick or Nasty Plot or Sub, all of these are good moves to have against Chansey as Calyrex, but he doesn't seem to have any of them. Psyshock, I mean, Psyshock does hit Chansey's physical defense, but if you haven't learned this firsthand yet, Chansey actually has a really serviceable physical defense, and it's actually the main reason why Chansey is so heavily favored in the meta as opposed to Blissey. So it seems that he probably didn't have any of those moves, so that is definitely a team building flaw on his behalf. So yeah, I checked his team. He has Sash 4 attacks on his Calyrex Shadow Rider. So this, I am going to use my Ho-Oh for sure in this game. has a pretty decent matchup against the Necrozma, for sure, with the ability to hit it super effective. But I am still going to have to be really careful around it because it could potentially have the weakness policy. So hopefully I can try to kind of chip it down and burst it with the Life Orb Max Flare. And that burst of damage is, there's a very good chance that it'll just catch him off guard, because Life Orb not exactly the most common Ho-Oh item, especially when you see that Chansey and the Quagsire, you are thinking of a defensive stally Ho-Oh team. So Life Orb, I'm thinking, is going to catch him off guard. Pheromosa going to be a main way for me to get the Ho-Oh into play, and Chansey is going to check a lot of his special attackers, mainly the Lapras and the Coco. But maybe, I think maybe the Quagsire might have been the better frame against the Necrozma. It is pretty tough to tell though. So a lot of it definitely depends on what his team is, what he is going to bring, and that in this game I'm gonna bring Chansey. Not exactly too familiar with this team just yet, so I'm going to bring the Pheromosa at lead because it seems like it has a lot of good matchups, and I'm going to just go for the Icicle Spear. Not an Icicle Spear, Triple Axle. It's going to KO the Landers for sure, and I think he should switch out. He definitely should, but I just want, as opposed to the first prediction I had against the Rillaboom, this one, if I get it wrong, there's actually a very big risk. And I'm going to just do quite a little bit of chip damage on this Necrozma. But more importantly, I kind of get to see a little bit of what exactly his team set is. It is leftovers, very defensive, and yeah, it has quite a bit of bulk investment, as you could see from how little it took from that triple axle. And a U-turn damage would have been nice, but I will take this information and bring in my Ho-Oh as he goes for the Cosmic Power. So this is one of those Cosmic Power really annoying sets with the stored power. I'm not going to be able to beat this 1v1 with the Chansey unless I land a few things, because it's going to do a ton with the stored power. So I don't want to risk that. I'm just going to go for the Sacred Fire, and it does way over half, even after the stored Cosmic Power +1 defense boost, and that is going to be great. And it's with the burn damage on top, I am thinking he is going to want to switch out this Necrozma for sure. That I don't see why he would stay in, or he would be risking a lot to stay in with this Necrozma and not go for the Moonlight. So I go for an Earthquake, trying to kind of get ahead on the PP count by a bit more, because Sacred Fire does have only 8 PP, so if I'm just gonna fire it off into him switching out, that is gonna be no good. But maybe in hindsight, I should have just gone for the Sacred Fire, see what he brings out. If I burn the Landers, then great. But because he went for the Cosmic Power here, right? And this second Cosmic Power is really big. It's gonna deny me from actually KOing this Necrozma with this Max Flare. But I felt pressured to go for this Max Flare, especially because if he keeps going for these Cosmic Powers, I am just gonna lose the game. So I'm gonna go for the Max Flare. It is not gonna KO, and he's going to recover quite a bit of damage from this Moonlight he has. I do think it's really funny that he has Moonlight and not Morning Sun, but yeah, Necrozma actually learns both. because remember, it's not the Solgaleo's moves, it's Necrozma's moves. So he, with the Solgaleo form, he has Moonlight, which is kind of funny. But Max Flare this time is going to be boosted by the Sun, and that should be doing way more. So this actually, he can't actually stall this out. So I was able to kind of stop this from happening. If he switches out, he's gonna lose all those boosts. He'll be burned, and that's really good for me because the next time he's not gonna have such an easy time setting up against the Ho-Oh. Right? So hopefully he just kind of switches out here. That's kind of what I'm hoping he will do. But if he Dynamaxes, that could kind of get really awkward. But it really depends on what he has in the back as well, I think. So he does, as I suspected, he does go for the switch out, and he sacks the Tapu Koko here. I don't think, unless it's like a fully defensive bold Koko, like maybe even with that, I don't think it will survive a Sun boosted Life Orb Max Flare from Ho-Oh. A lot of damage modifiers there, and it's just gonna take it out in one shot. So now he has the Landorus and the Necrozma, and he's gonna go for the Landorus for sure. So I'm gonna switch out. I don't want to lose my Ho for nothing, and I am actually just gonna go for the Chansey here. Chansey is gonna do very little against this matchup, I believe. And in fact, if he were to Dynamax with his Landorus, that means that I can just soft boiled with my Chansey and stall him out like that. So if he has Sword Stance, he can break through my Chansey with the Landorus T. This is what I mean, guys. Like, Chansey doesn't just lose to physical attacks. It needs to be sufficiently strong enough. And Landorus T has 145 base attack, and that is not sufficiently strong enough because it doesn't have any boosts. So Chansey, yeah, takes nothing from the non-stab Max Rockfall. You're gonna have to hit it harder than that, and I am gonna go for either a soft boiled or stealth rock. I think I go for the soft boiled, and being a bit greedy here, I want to go for the stealth rock. That'll make progress on the Landorus T if it just switches back and forth. I also want to sing it eventually, because if it's Lum SD, I think that is the main set that I am most scared of at this situation. But he doesn't even go for the max Airstream, which is honestly makes me think that this might not be an offensive Landorus T. Like, usually most offensive Landorus T will carry Fly for the utility of dodging Dynamax moves and the max Airstream, of course. But with the minimal damage on this Chansey, combined with the fact that he is not Airstreaming, makes me think that he is going to be a bulky Landorus T. And if so, it's not going to have enough power to break through this Chansey. Actually, the Sandstorm really helps me because it negates the healing from the Necrozma here. He does go for the Earthquake, so if he were to be physically defensive, I definitely should have gone for the Soft Boiled instead of just getting greedy with this Stealth Rock. But it's not too late to go for the Soft Boiled. I'm just going to spam Soft Boiled, chip it down with Stealth Rock, Seismic Toss. I should take this game. And he forfeits. He definitely didn't have the Sword Stance. So good game. So these are my games with the Ho team. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you next time. Bye.